Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, and here it is. It is time, the finals for the Tim's Nation tournament. The winner will be the first champion of the channel and will leave with their emblem on the title belt. That's right, we have the championship title belt that is finished-ish for the channel that will be defended, fought upon. We'll talk about all those rules later on and how that's going to work out. For right now, it's all about the championship of 40K, and it will be the Necrons versus the Grey Knights. Now, these are two of my factions. So while I will be walking away with the title belt as the first champion, which army will represent that title belt is still yet to be determined. So I will be playing the Necrons. Lane will be playing the Grey Knights. And that's going to be interesting, because although Lane has not played Grey Knights at all this edition, he has played a lot of games against Grey Knights, and at the same time, too, is very familiar with the up-down mechanics that Grey Knights have. He's very familiar with my list. It's been the same list that I've been running for a couple of months now, so he knows that list intimately. For me, I'm going to be running the Canoptek Court, because not only for this event, our event that we have, this house event, but this weekend I'll be traveling to Battlegrounds and board games. With the new job, I've been opening up a lot more free time, so looks like I'll be able to start traveling out to some good old tournaments once again and bring some recaps and all that good stuff. Now, this weekend, they will be using the new cards, new everything, so we're going to come back here and we're going to talk about all that stuff and how the new cards feel and everything like that. So I will be taking the Canoptek Court. I'm not taking a bunch of heavy battle lines. This is going to be the list I'm playing today against the Grey Knights. This is also going to be the list that I most likely take this weekend. There might be, if something happens crazy and big, that might change, but I doubt it. So this will be the list I'm taking. All right, talked enough. Let's get over and talk about the Necrons and the Canoptek Court that I lovingly call the Harvest, the Canoptek Harvest, that I will be taking this weekend and also facing the Grey Knights. Here it is, the Canoptek Court I like to call the Harvest. This is the Canoptek list that many viewers and friends of the channel have seen before, with one very, very, very slight change. So, since we're going to the championship, we will cover this all and everything, but we'll kind of do this a little quicker because I want to talk more about what I expect the list to actually do, especially in the Grey Knights. All right, to start things off, our long-range threat is going to be our triple Doomstalker package that we're bringing. 3 Doomstalkers, 5-up Overwatch, strong shooting, AP 3 damage, very, very solid package, especially with the high strength gun. These guys are excellent. They also have Blast. It's D6 plus 1 shots. They hit on 4s, but with the Canoptek Court, they got that full rerolls in my home deployment zone, which I didn't go over. Canoptek Court. This is the one where we have the different Nexus matrix that we can build up across the field. Our home deployment zone will always be a matrix. The No Man's Land will be a matrix if we control at least half the objective markers at the beginning of any phase. And my opponent's deployment zone can be a Nexus if I control their objective marker at the beginning of any phase. Beginning of any phase is very critical for a lot of the units in here. Now back over to the Doomstalkers, whom will probably be in my deployment zone for the entire game, so they'll be re-rolling hits all game long, making that 4-up not that bad. These and their high-strength weapons, plus Blast, plus D6 plus 1 shots. These guys can do a lot of damage to multiple different style targets. 4-up invulns make them kind of tough to kill, as well as with the spiders giving them feel no pain. These guys are a menace in a Canoptek list. Next up, since we talked about them, you love them, you know I do, the 6 Canoptek Tomb Spiders. So we are taking 6 of them, 2 by 3 units, because you get 2 in each unit. They will have the particle beamers, which they don't just get 1, they get 2 apiece with Blast. So for every 5 models, we will be getting 4 additional shots with the unit. This gun is D6 shots normally and has devastating wounds. On top of that, the Spider's toughness 7, 6 wounds. The fact that they are vehicles make them such a strong threat across the game. On top of it, they also have the ability to place Scarabs back, which now I've found a very, very strong play with how those work. And they're vehicles. So Tank Shock, anyone? They also get Feel No Pain. their own feel no pain ability, the 6-up, because they are vehicles. No invuln on these guys, so that's a little bit of tough in defense, but again, Lane is probably going to roll his eyes when I say, oh, I don't have an invuln on my Necron unit. Moving on to the Scarabs, which I just talked about. So the Scarabs are very interesting, and I think I'm going to do a separate video talking about what I've learned with these guys. These guys are a slow, reliable burn. They are fast, which means that they can get into positions with their speed. They have 0 OC, but with a Cryptek within 6, they get OC 1. But they also strip OC for the units they're engagement with. This is very, very big with my Wraiths. Wraiths being OC 2, these guys can take away some of the OC value to protect, to be able to take an objective easier. On top of the fact that usually those Wraiths should have a Technomancer with them. So that's another boost for the Cryptek factor to give these guys an additional OC. Now, these guys also can explode for mortal wounds, and they do that at the beginning of the fight phase, yours and mine. So in some scenarios where that's all that goes is where I just blow up a Scarab base in my phase and in your phase, the spiders just reload the unit and put 2 back. Each spider can put 1 base back into a squad. On top of the fact that they can also, there's no limit to how many can go in there. So if I had 1 Scarab left and multiple spiders in range, I could just keep building Scarabs in this unit over and over again, which makes them very, very cool when that can happen. Now, Scarabs are squishy. They have like no save at all. They have a 6-up save, so it's not going to matter very much. They do have 4 wounds, so it takes a bit to get through. 6 attacks apiece with lethal is interesting, especially out of Canoptek, where we can get full rerolls to hit. So these guys, there is a lot more play that happens with these guys. Now, because we talked about them and we talked about the fact they're OC0, we're going to scooch over into the Psychomancers. Yes, I said Mancers. So this little Cryptek that I converted up is going to be playing the role of a Psychomancer because he's all wormy and stuff. So that means we will have 2 Psychomancers in this list. Yes, they're crazy. I love them. After looking at their data sheet, the ability for the engagement rate, the battle shock, I can do it multiple times. So having 2 of these guys, I can start targeting units and say, hey, take a battle shot, and really, really mess with someone else's game and scoring. On top of the fact that these guys also are Crypteks. So later in the game, when things are going well and I need the Wraiths to move forward, these guys can make sure that my Scarabs are still at least OC1 on other objective markers later in the game. So a lot of play having these little Psychomancers floating around. This is a time where I'm trying the second one. I dropped out the Crypt Thralls temporarily to see if I like this over the Crypt Thralls, how I like having 2 Psychomancers. Having a more bulky Wraith unit, I really do like. I want to see if having a second Psychomancer is worth it, or if I'm just overkill too much and just need to go back to 1. So that's going to be kind of one of the tests I see going into this weekend. We'll see. That's going to be the only thing that might shift back, is me going back to having the 2 Crypt Thralls over the Psychomancer. Now, because of this, one of the Psychomancers is going to take the Auto Divinitaire. So if my opponent has any way of gaining command points with any abilities on a 2-up, I can gain some as well. Nice little ability to have. It's an interesting little ability to have. I think that a lot of armies are going to start teching into more of those things, especially with the fact of being able to shuffle away a card over the course of the game. Now, we're going to move over into a kind of combo package, and that is the Wraiths with Technomancer. So we have 2 6-man squads of Wraiths, both of which will be led by a Technomancer. That means they will have a 5-up feel no pain. 4 wounds, 4-up invuln. These guys are tough. These guys are durable. These guys are mean. Their attacks, their strength is a little weak, given the fact they are 2 damage, but they're only AP 1 with the Vicious Claws. So they don't do a lot of damage, but they also take a ton to get rid of. 3 up, 4 up, 4 wounds with a 5 up, feel no pain. Yeah, these guys are a pain in the butt to get rid of. Now, one of the Technomancers is going to have the infiltrate, so that means that this entire squad will be able to infiltrate, so I can have one in a better position to start trying to get that Canoptek control early on in the game. Now, we already talked about the Technos, we talked about all that, so we have one last unit to talk about, and that is my 2 Canoptek Tomb Sentinels, sorry. The Sentinel has the Exile Beam, so better damage, better AP, especially when attacking a unit on an objective marker. It has Blast, a decent gun all around. In combat, pretty terrible. But if it's fighting a unit on an objective marker, we get that additional AP, which is very nice. Now, what makes these guys super, super solid is that they are deep striking units. These guys are able to deep strike and land on an objective marker and help me late game. On top of it, since they are Canoptek, they can reroll the hits, which suddenly make that Exile Beam very, very nasty when shooting at units that have armor on objective markers. These guys are ones that alone, off to the side, shooting at a unit that's not on an objective marker, without Canoptek control, these guys don't do very well. But as you start stacking all those inherent buffs, they get real strong, real fast. And on top of it, for 115 points for a deep striking unit, you got to remember that defense. These guys got toughness 9, 9 wounds with a 4 up invulnerable save. So they are also very, very difficult to remove from an objective. And when they're near an objective marker, they get armor contempt. You know what? You can't shy against it. It may not be as efficient for them as it is for something like Terminators or a unit without an invuln, but still, it's armor contempt. If these guys are in cover and with armor contempt, you could be sitting on a 3 up save against AP2 weapons and just make your opponent have to really dedicate a lot into them. So that's it. That's the list. Only change I said is I pulled the Crypt Thralls out that I attached in the Wraiths to bring a second Psychomancer. I want to see if that's good board coverage, how it feels. I'm kind of on the fence with it. It was a new edition, so I'm not really sure how I feel. Now, we're going to be facing off in the Grey Knights, which I know I cannot underestimate Lane in this one. Yes, he has no experience with the Grey Knights, which means that I have an advantage there when it comes to experience with the armies, both playing them and playing against them. Lane is very seasoned with up-down units and has played against the Grey Knights a lot. He may try and pull some tricks that I haven't even thought about with Grey Knights and completely catch me on my back foot. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Now, the Terminators and the Purifiers are at a very interesting spot against me because the Doomstalkers, one, being able to overwatch on a 5 up, having full rerolls, and having 3 damage means that they're able to pick up Terminators very, very easily. They can also pick up the Purifiers very easily too into multiple phases. Another thing is Purifiers do very well into infantry, which I don't have much. Now the Wraiths get the infantry keyword with the Technomancer attached. That's something to think about. It's not enough for me to not put the Technomancers with them. But that is something to think about, that's going to make the Purifiers able to hit the Wraiths just a little bit harder than I would like. Now, other things, such as the Spiders, they're going to have a tough time into. Now, that's just the infantry portion of the show. We still got to contend with 5 Dread Knight bodies, 2 Grandmasters, and 3 regular Dread Knights. These are units that can be as quick and quicker than my army. They can hit in combat much harder than I can in a lot of aspects. Tank shock being one, as well as just regular combat. These guys can hit very, very hard. And those Grandmasters being able to go full rerolls on hits, wounds, and damage into monsters and vehicles means that a lot of the units in my army can trigger that ability. Removing the Dread Knights is going to be difficult. I don't have a lot of weapons that do well into them, other than the Doomstalkers. Which now, when I say that, I go, oh, do the Doomstalkers, use the Doomstalkers, use the Doomstalkers. That's putting a lot of work on those guys. So there is a lot of, and that's going to be the case. Doomstalkers are going to have to pull a lot of weight and do a lot of work. Now, in this matchup, what the Psychomancers can do for me is more or less be able to knock OC off of high OC units by getting that Battle Shock hit. The Spiders, with their high wound shot output, could do quite a bit of damage into things like the Purifiers and the Terminators to allow my Doomstalkers to focus on the Dread Knights. But, as we've seen in the past, that 4-up invuln is a huge threat. As I hit those Dread Knights and get a good solid amount of shots off, spike some 4-ups, and that's it. Now, the good thing is the Dread Knights are a little soft, coming in with that toughness 8 and 13 wounds. So even though it may take me some time, there could be a very strong time frame where I'm able to hit them and just bam, 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 clear a bunch of them off. Hopefully, before they get to a lot of my units. Other than that, the Psy Cannon is a huge threat, especially with the 3 damage. 2 hits to get through against a spider, and that's a dead spider. It's a lot of volume of shooting that can come through, and they're able to do it from a significant range at 24 inches, realistically. So, which means that I have a lot of board to cover to get over to them. So those are all a lot of things. It's going to be a very tough matchup. Lane knows what he's doing with the Grey Knights. So I'm not taking this lightly. But it's going to be a very tough matchup, regardless. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, though, because I have yet to actually get to play against the Grey Knights with my Necrons. And I know how strong this list is and how strong the Grey Knights can be. All right, guys. That's it. I look forward to this championship match and unveiling the title belt. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.